Hello! So today we have another day with our box plots and outliers. Outliers tend to be the one thing in stats that is a little bit confusing. So we're going to do a quick little review of what we talked about yesterday with outliers. So the data in the table represents the number of hot dogs eaten by male competitors during the hot dog eating competition on July 4th of 2015 in Coney Island, New York. So we have our table here of all the different numbers of hot dogs that were eaten. We're going to start off by doing our 5-number summary. So remember, this can be done by hand, but why would we do that? We are going to pull out those calculators. If you don't have your calculators out, take them out. Press pause, take them out. And as a reminder, when we get to our calculators, we are going to hit Stat. And to put the data into our calculator, we are going to hit Edit. And you can see that I have already entered all of the values into my list 1. So if you have not entered your values in, go ahead and press pause and enter all of those values in. When you're ready, go ahead and press play again. All right, now that you have those values in, we want to make some calculations. So we're going to hit Stat. We already edited our list, so we're going to arrow over to the right and we're going to make a calculation. We are using number 1, one variable stats. We have our data in our list 1. We do not have a frequency table, so we're going to leave the frequency list alone. And we're just going to make our calculations. Remember that first one up there, that's our mean or our average. We arrow down to get our 5-number summary. We had N is our 16 entries, our minimum value, our Q1 value, our median, our Q3, and our max. So let's go ahead and fill that in on our sheet. 11 for our min, 24.25, 29.5, 32, and 60. So that is our 5-number summary. Now we want to figure out, do we have any outliers in this data? To figure out if we have outliers, whether they're lower or upper, we start off by finding our IQR. The IQR is Q3 minus Q1, that middle half of that data, the range of it. So 32 is our Q3 minus our Q1 of 24.25. We get that our IQR is 7.75. So we either have numbers that are too small or numbers that are too big. If I'm going to check the lower, we do Q1, because that's the lower half of our data there, minus 1.5 times IQR, because it's as small as it can be. The Q1 being 24.25 minus 1.5 times the IQR that we just calculated. And we end up at 12.625. So if there are any numbers that are smaller than 12.625, then it is a lower outlier. And we do have one. That means that 11 is a lower outlier. We still need to check to see if we have any upper outliers. And that means 2 numbers that are too big to be part of it. So we look here, and that happens when we have Q3 plus 1.5 times IQR. Remember, this is how big it's going to be, so we're going to add value to that. Q3 being 32 plus 1.5 times the IQR that we calculated in this section of 7.75, and that's 43.625. We look at all of our data sets, and we do have a number that is higher than 43.625. That means that 60 is an upper outlier. And remember, when we go to make our box plot, our outliers are stars on our graph. So if we go to make our box plot, the smallest value was 10 or 11. So let's start our labeling at 10, and we are going all the way up to 60. So we are going to be separating that by into 5, 1, So it's 20, 30, 40, 50. I'm just going to erase this and move it. 60. We had a lower outlier at 11. We had an upper outlier at 60. So our outliers are those stars. Now we've got to figure out the rest of our box plot that we've got to draw because we have new numbers that we have to consider. Because now we have a new minimum and a new maximum on our actual box plot. But if you remember from yesterday, this can be really easily figured out. You can either look at your data or we go to Zoom 9 because we have our stat plot on and it gives us our new box plot. We see our lower outlier here, our upper one here. If I hit trace, we can arrow left and right among those values. So we see that that outlier is that minimum value. So now the new first point in my box plot is 21.75. Sometimes I like to write the values above it. You don't have to. And if we arrow over, we've got that 24.25. The Q1 doesn't change. The median's not changing. The Q3 is not changing. So 20, we've got 15, 25, 35, 45, 55. We've got our Q1 at 24.25. We've got our median at 29.5. We've got our Q3. They're at 32. And our new end of it is going to be at 42. So again, showing our smaller outlier of 11 and our larger outlier of 60. So hopefully maybe after a second day of seeing those outlier values, it makes a little bit more sense on how to calculate them and how to graph them. And that is it for today.